and then you do have a bunch of bills. And then one of the things that I like that you talked about was that if we were really a Christian nation, we would forgive student loan debt. And I am a big fan of that. And I do not like that we are predatory towards young people and condemn them to loans that are unforgivable regardless of any other kind of bankruptcy, which is really kind of sick. The idea that we have put education that may or may not be even helpful for you in the future and may just be complete nonsense. Like say you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars getting some degree in the humanities, getting some degree in gender studies, some just a nonsensical degree that you're never going to get a job from. And now you are condemned to not just pay that initial debt, but with interest forever. There's people right now that are on Social Security that are getting their Social Security docked. They get chunks of it taken out to pay for their student loan debt that they will never pay off. They will go to the grave in debt for predatory loans that they took out when they were so young, their frontal cortex wasn't even fully developed yet. They didn't have any idea what they were doing. They were being coerced by a bunch of people that told them this is the only way, that you have to do this, otherwise you're going to be a loser. Right. That easily could have been me. I was very lucky that I didn't fall into that. But I only went to school. I went to UMass Boston. I only went there because I didn't want to be a loser, because I thought you had to go. Yeah. I thought because I got tired of telling people that I wasn't going to school after high school. Yeah. And so I was like, I better just go do something. Otherwise, I feel gross telling people that I'm not doing anything. Yeah. And that is a sickness in our culture. That's a sickness in our society. It's a sickness in our civilization that we have allowed these financial institutions to prey upon the youngest and most vulnerable people with inescapable loans that they will carry with them often for decades and decades. And it's sick. And the resistance to forgiving that is also sick. It's like we spend so much money on other countries. So much money went to U.S. aid, where developing foreign nations and influencing elections and regime change. And we're so resistant to giving people the freedom to have education as a thing that doesn't burden you with financial ties that you can't escape. Yeah. The idea that you can't escape it even with bankruptcy is so sick. Right. It's just a sickness, man. And we've just accepted it. Well, that's just how it is. Well, someone's making money. Right. Someone's profiting off of that. So you're allowing people to profit off vulnerable young kids to the tune that where the interest compiles every year and you're stuck with it forever. Why? That's not a situation that listen. I said this before, but I'm going to say it again. You want to make America great again? You want less losers, okay? How do you get less losers? You get less people that are financially crippled by student loans. You get less people that grow up in a neighborhood where there's no hope. When we find neighborhoods that have no hope and that are riddled with drug addiction and crime and gang violence, and we just leave them alone and we just say that's their problem. No, that's our problem. If we really want to think of ourselves, the United States of America, as a community, which is that's how I like to look at it. I like to think of us as a big community. I don't like to think of us as right versus left and blue and red and all this nonsense. It's a bunch of people that agree we're all the same. Yeah. So if we are a community, how are we allowing these places to create these disenfranchised people generation after generation and do nothing about it?
And those kids were doing exactly what we told them to do.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
exactly. Go to school, kids.
Right.
Yeah,
go to college.
Go to college.
Again, I think we've overcorrected, where now we tell every kid to go to college, which does a lot of damage too, because a lot of kids, one, don't want to go to college, two, their gifts and their skills aren't going to be fully developed at a 4-year university.
Also, we're dismissing the value of trades. Like, my God,
and how much more money they make.
Great plumber is so important. Having a great carpenter is so important.
Electrician. No, I mean,
so important.
And you make a lot more money. I mean, the guys I went to high school with that have a boat out at Lake Travis are not the ones who went to a 4-year university like I did.
Well, they certainly didn't study,
Right. Get your head out of the books.
The nonsensical stuff that doesn't get you anywhere.
But I mentioned to you before I was a politician, I was a public school teacher, which is kind of an unusual route to
What did you teach?
Serving. I taught 6th grade language arts at Rhodes Middle School.
Oh, so that's something that's valuable.
I often say
language arts.
Teaching middle school is the best preparation for politics. It's a lot more like middle school than people think. The egos, the drama, just all of it is.
Isn't it crazy how no one gets past that?
Yeah, I mean, well, we could talk about this all day, but there are lots of stories I have where I'm just blown away by the ego. And again, I have an ego, you have an ego. There's no way you can do this kind of difficult work without an ego that, to be able to say, I want to make decisions for 200,000 constituents. I mean, that's the job I have, right? I mean, that takes a certain amount of ego to make those kind of decisions.
You just can't let the ego be the boss.
Correct. And this was the problem. I mean, we focus so much on President Biden's age, which I agree was a problem, but I don't think we've really discussed that the biggest problem was ego. It was his inability to step aside and let someone else do the job.
Yes.
Right? I mean, when it should have happened a lot earlier than when it
should have never happened in the first place. Let's be realistic. In 2020, we all knew, anybody that was paying attention knew that he was compromised.
Yeah. Well, and that he said he was a transitional figure. Yeah. I mean, he I don't know how explicit he was, but he certainly made it sound like, he was stepping in so that he could usher in a new generation. And that never happened, because when you get into these offices, and I'm just a little state rep at a low level, but even I know, like, people call you representative. Your mail says the honorable.
Yeah,
right?
Nice.
Right.
Pretty,
and you're like,
that's tight.
This feels pretty good, right?
That's pretty
like
cool.
People, and you have a bunch of new friends, right? All the lobbyists are like, now they're professionally friendly, right? And all that can go to your head very quickly.
I'm sure.
And think about someone who's been in it for 60 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, it almost becomes a fused part of your identity to where you can't step aside.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is for self-preservation.
Well, look at these politicians that are in their 80s that are still in office.
Desperately clinging.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at these people and I'm like, you have grandkids.
Well, it's not just that. It's also the support system that's behind them, right?
Yes.
Because all those people need that person to stay in office.
Correct. Yeah, they all depend on him.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you tell me this 60 years from now, if I'm 80 years old and I'm still in elected office, it's like, go home.
Well, maybe
Spend
not.
Spend some time
though.
with your grandkids.
You're still valuable at 8. I'm not dismissing.
Age comes for all of us, right? I mean,
yeah, but I don't dismiss the possibility that you could be an elder statesman and be like very wise and kind and benevolent and doing a really good job.
I guess but that to me it suggests that you think there's no one younger with more energy who could do this better.
Well, why do you have to have no energy if you're old, if you take care of yourself? See, I think
guess
there's a
true.
lot of people that have learned a lot in their time.
For sure.
I mean, you've got your situations where you've got like your Nancy Pelosi's where they're clearly using the system for extreme wealth. They're generating preposterous amounts of wealth for a reasonable income. They may have a reasonable income of $170,000, $200,000 a year, but yet they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, that's kind of crazy, right? That's kind of crazy that you're supposed to be that's above board. That's level. That's okay. That's nuts. But
or I mean, I just saw the story about this congressman right before the big beautiful bill passed, and he sold all his stock in a company that does Medicaid reimbursements.
Oh, Jesus.
So
because you knew it was coming.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazy.
Yes.
Insider trading. And by the way, insider trading, everyone wants to use Nancy Pelosi in his example. She kind of gets used as an example just because she's been so good at it. But if you look at the actual insider trading, it's red and blue. It's the whole thing.
Yep.
It's filled with people that are benefiting.
Well, and going into this, when I first decided to run, I was 28, had never run for anything
How
before.
old are you now?
36. I just turned 36. And I was, like I said, a former teacher, so I didn't know about how to run for office.
Why did you decide to run for office?
Well, so I was a teacher on the west side of San Antonio, which is for those your listeners who are in San Antonio, the west side is this beautiful, historic neighborhood, Mexican-American neighborhood. It's also one of the poorest zip codes in the whole state of Texas. So every day I saw my students struggling to overcome poverty and these systems that were designed to hold them back. And the school I was at was underfunded. I mean, it's Title I school. I taught 45 kids in one classroom, and the classroom was not that much bigger than the studio.
Oh my God.
So you may imagine 45 kids in here. You know, I literally had kids sitting on the air conditioning unit because there weren't enough desks. I mean, this is
crazy.
This is the 21st century
In America.
in the United States of America.
Wow.
And it pissed me off. I mean, I had one student. I was a first-year teacher. What happens in schools, especially schools in high-poverty neighborhoods where things are really hard, you know, the administration of the school will oftentimes give the kids who need the most help, the kids who have the most troubles, to the first-year teachers, right? Almost like a hazing thing. So I remember my first year of teaching, my principal told me that I was going to get this kid named Justin, who had gotten kicked out of his elementary school the year before because he had brought a knife to school and threatened to stab his fifth grade teacher. So I was, again, first-year teacher, kind of freaked out, right? The kid shows up. One, he's not a monster. He's an 11-year-old boy, right? Like this high, right? I took him aside, introduced myself, told him I was happy he was in class, told him I wanted to get to know him. He gradually started to raise his hand a little bit more in class. He was super smart, super just quick. He also had like a great smile. He was very popular with the girls in the class, a lot of personality. And I started to invite him to our little lunch group because I had kids who came and ate in my classroom during lunch. And we started to kind of build a rapport. And he didn't have a lot of male teachers, so I think that was helpful to see a guy as a teacher and be able to build a relationship with him. Anyway, right before winter break that year, it's the last day of school, he brought me this wrapped gift. The wrapping was all jankety, but I opened it up and it was this little cup with a snowflake on it that he had bought at the Dollar Tree for his teacher. Again, this is a kid who was going to stab his fifth grade teacher. A few months later, he's bringing a snowflake cup to his sixth grade teacher. And I was feeling like I was on top of the world as a teacher. I was like, who's going to make the movie, right? Like, here I am, right?
Sandra Bullock's going to play you in a movie.
Yeah, who's going to play me? And then I came back after winter break. I was in my third period class, and I heard this commotion out in the hallway. So I immediately stepped out of the room to see what was going on. And there were two of our coaches, and they were both restraining Justin, either side of him. They were carrying him out of the school. He was screaming. His feet didn't touch the ground. Like, he literally was just carried out of the school. I found out that he had started a fight in his third grade class, and that was his last strike. And it was the last time I ever saw Justin. I did some digging to figure out what had happened. Turns out in the previous semester, Justin had been seeing a therapist that was provided by the school district. And it was this lady that he really was hitting it off with and getting along with. And they were going through all his issues because Justin had been abandoned by his mother at a very early age, which that'll screw anybody up, right? Justin had experienced violence, had experienced all this trauma. And so for the first time, there was a professional who was helping him work his way through it. And there was a teacher who liked him and who believed in him. And that was all it took for Justin to see all of these improvements. And I found out that after winter break, that because of budget cuts from the legislature, the district had eliminated the therapist. So this lifeline suddenly went away for Justin. So literally everybody had abandoned Justin, including his own mother. And now the adults that he was trying to trust again were abandoning him. And so that was the kind of radicalizing experience for me, because these people at the state capitol had cut $5 billion from our schools. Who knows why? Who knows what the justifications were? But I saw firsthand how that screwed up a kid's life. I saw the damage that did to real flesh and blood human beings. And so I promised myself right then that if I ever got a little bit of power or a little bit of influence, that I would do everything I could with every fiber of my being to stop that from happening again. So literally Justin and my students are the ones I think about when I'm at the Capitol. They are the criteria that I use to evaluate public policy, not if it's a Democratic bill or Republican bill, not if it's going to get me, ex-lobbyist support. It is, will this help my students or will it hurt my students? Period. And it makes things a lot easier. I have a picture of my one of my class periods on my desk at the Capitol. So that is what got me into this whole mess. I miss being a teacher because I miss having that immediate impact. All the impact I make now, if I make any impact at all, feels very diffuse and far away because there's all these layers.
Yeah.
But I like to think that some of the bills I'm passing are at least helping teachers like me and students like mine.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful that you made that decision. And I think that's what we need. We need people that have legitimate personal real life experience with other people that are benefiting from certain social programs and certain things that should not be cut. I think there's too many wealthy people that are just very disengaged with everyone else. And that's a real concern. And they sort of huddle up in these elite groups and go to these elite meetings and have these conferences. They fly on private jets and try to figure out how the world should operate.
Or climate change on their private jets.
Fucking crazy. It's crazy. It's really crazy and gross. And I don't think it has anything to do with climate change. I think it's like a boys club, a weird club where these elite people get to hobnob and eat caviar together.
My point is, if you're going to a conference to discuss climate change, but you're taking your giant private jet.
I've seen Bill Gates justify that because of all his work that he does.
Sure.
Or even Bernie Sanders when he's talking about campaigning.
Yeah.
And he was saying, how else am I going to go to all these different places? Like, we go Southwest like fucking comedians do, dude. We travel all over the country too, buddy.
Southwest is great.
Yeah, listen, when I was traveling, I was doing a lot more dates than him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I never took private jets. Look, there's ways to do it. And the idea that there's only one way to do it, well, that's just the nicest way. It's certainly more convenient. It's easier. It's more comfortable if you got the money. But the idea that you're gonna preach to everybody else how to live their lives, like, you're so disconnected from most people.
Well, I would say that I am probably the poorest member of the Texas legislature. And I'm not poor, but relatively speaking, most of the people I serve with, either very successful lawyers who own their own law practice, doctors and surgeons who operate their own medical practice, or it's trust fund babies. No offense to those people, but
yeah, that is a weird thing.
It's just people who have a lot of family money. And here's, because I mentioned earlier that I don't make any money at this job. So unlike a congressman, because I think Congress people make like 100, 150 or something, which is a real salary. I make $7,200 a year. That's $400 a month after taxes as a state rep. That's my salary. Now, I also get a per diem when we're in session, which is a little bit more, which is helpful. But the reason I say that is because there are systematic barriers to a regular person running for the job that I have.
Got it.